Hey everyone, I'm Michael, and welcome to another video. In this video, I want to play a little bit of LittleBigPlanet right now, and that was a very tough tongue twister for me to get through. Oh my god. A little bit of LittleBigPlanet. Anyway, you guys saw that one video I made of the, bouncy spun here, where if you put two sprung bolts on a spun, both at 100% strength, attach it to a light matter material, and then set one of the sprung bolts to 180 degrees and the other to 0 degrees, you end up with something that kind of, breaks the game a little. And by that I mean it does, well, this. Just a little bit of breakage there. And naturally that led me to see what would happen if I grabbed onto it. And it kinda... whoops. It kinda recreates needle and thread from Restitched. I grow these really long spaghetti arms and get... oh god. Never mind what's going on over there. But, yeah, that kind of recreates needle and thread from Restitched. You guys have seen that video, right? Pretty interesting. Now, this week, I actually made another discovery with this. See, LittleBigPlanet has a material in it that you don't see often anymore, but it was used a little bit in LittleBigPlanet 1 and LittleBigPlanet PSP, and that is the Peach and Pink Floaty. Now, the interesting thing about these floaties is the pink one, which is this one, if you set it to dynamic and then place it in the level, it doesn't really do much of an interesting thing. It kind of just stays there, and then you can grab onto it and float around with it. It's more of a gliding one. But the Peach Floaty, on the other hand, that one, let's have a look at what it does. So, first of all, it's brighter. And second of all, it dissipates gravity. Now, crucially, it's like the Pink Floaty before it, you can actually grab onto it, and that causes you to float up into the air. This was used for some puzzles. You might recognize this kind of pattern from LittleBigPlanet 1 and LittleBigPlanet PSP levels. You have to grab onto something and then float around with it and dodge things and stuff like that. That's what those are for. But this got me thinking. Because floaties, when you grab onto them, naturally they act like sponges. And that got me thinking earlier this week. What happens if I set the little needle and thread creator object here to use floaties instead of light matter and a sponge? Well, turns out a lot happens. It creates this little object here that floats up into the air and spins really fast and is really bouncy, even against level boundaries. To be clear, it's not bouncing because I've made it bouncy with a material tweaker or anything like that. It is just bouncy. For the sake of being bouncy. Right? But naturally, what I ended up doing was I started creating a grid of these and letting them kind of smash each other around. And it started deleting them because they were hitting each other with too fast of a velocity, and if you know anything about your LittleBigPlanet physics systems, the game has a velocity limit and it will delete objects if they exceed that limit. So naturally what I decided to do to circumvent that is do a little trick that my friend Shadow Leviathan taught me, and that is to grab a material tweaker, set it to indestructible. Oops. And place the material tweaker on both the pieces here. I'm in grid mode, so that's kind of broken, right? It's put it there, And, you know, this will stop it from deleting itself when it hits something and has too high of a velocity. And and it won't stop you from deleting the character, but, you know, it kind of works. I mean, you won't be getting any needle and thread out of this. It spins too much and... Oh, God! Yeah, it spins too much and Sackboy goes a little bit mental. So you can't really do the needle and thread with it. It just twists his arms so much that it deletes the player, so that's something that happens. But since these two objects don't destroy each other anymore, or since these floaties do not destroy one another when they hit each other, my little grid experiment worked. And that is what you see, or what you saw earlier and heard over here. I've created a massive grid of these floaties, and, you know, I've set Sackboy up so that he spawns in. None of these floaties can be destroyed, and also, there are emitters aligning the walls here, so every 2 seconds, a whole bunch more floaties will spawn in. And it creates, well... takes a little bit for it to load. But it creates this utter chaos! I could watch this for hours. But now that I've had my fill watching it for a little while, I'm going to explain what's going on here. When I created the original object, it was actually a trick that M88 Youngling taught me, and I started messing around with it, and it was kind of funny. But what was happening there was the two sprung bolts are fighting each other in the physics engine in LittleBigPlanet. I'm not too certain about how sprung bolts work, but they work in a certain way whereby if you set them to opposite angles and they have 100% strength, they keep fighting to lock the object into whatever angle they're set to, kind of like a gyroscope will. Except a gyroscope is a little bit more smart and it will cancel it out, but a sprung bolt won't. And if you attach the sprung bolts to an object and then attach that object to a piece of light matter, not only can the sprung bolts not move the object anymore because they're fighting each other, but actually that's not what's really happening. The light matter is keeping the object still, because light matter has the property of not being able to be moved, and that's like a static physics material. But what happens is the object is not actually stationary, it's spinning so fast that the game's rendering system can't actually keep up with it. And so you see a static object, but in practice you hear a spinning object, you hear the sprung bolts fighting each other, that's what that sound is. And when you hit the object, because it's spinning, it adds a whole bunch of angular velocity and force to Sackboy and causes him to bounce off it. And I don't know how to explain the needle and thread thing. That's just kinda LittleBigPlanet gameplay code in a nutshell there. You don't explain the needle and thread. But the bounciness we can explain by having the object be incredibly quickly spinning to the point where you can't see it because the game only runs at a certain frame rate. But you can actually see the spinning with the floaties, because what the floaties bring to the table is obviously that they float up. They can move, and they don't obey gravity. You can actually get the same effect by putting two sponges together like we did with the floaties, and in fact I'm going to show that off. What we can do is we can hide the background here, grab the back layer of this object and move it out of the little wall here. And I'm gonna go ahead, place it, and I'm gonna change these to basic sponges. And you'll notice a similar effect, except that we lose out on the, at least this is my hypothesis, we'll lose out on the anti-gravity. Whoops. So let's give it a try. Yeah, basically, same thing. It bounces around, but it obeys gravity, so it doesn't really get to go too far. Except there, it kind of yeeted itself off of planet Earth, but, you know, that's what that causes. That's just having the object be able to move. You can see it spinning around. Like so. But the floaties allow it to stay in midair, which causes, well, this hell. Now I'm gonna delete the sponge because I don't intend on breaking thermometer right now. But if we actually just unpause in create mode and watch this, the interesting thing is, this is sort of a deterministic system, because what's going to happen is all of these objects are going to rise up. They are going to rise up at a constant speed. Well, they will accelerate, but they'll arrive at the same place at the same time, is what I'm trying to say. By LittleBigPlanet law. And what'll happen is they will all bounce off of the wall at the same time, and all bounce off each other at the same time, and so on and so forth. And it causes this really bizarre, mathematical, deterministic chaos that is just fun to watch. It looks random, but really it's... It's the same motion each time. They all interact with each other in the exact same way. It's a really odd effect. But then, when you naturally add Sackboy into the mix, it kind of throws this whole system out of whack. And you end up with this. I'm gonna publish this level to LittleBigPlanet PS4, and it'll be on my moon. You can find it by searching Deterministic Chaos by the user AKLNTHNDR, because that's my PSN. And you will find this level. But I really wanted to make this video just for fun, mostly, but also to show this weird quirk with the LittleBigPlanet physics system. There's actually two quirks going on here. The one is the sprung bolts that I showed you guys in a previous video, and the other is the way floaties work in the game. And it's really interesting. And, well, that's basically it. I don't really have much else to say here, other than the fact that if you enjoy this type of content, well, you found the right channel. And second of all, thanks for watching, I guess. I don't know how to outro this video. Whatever the case is, I've been Michael, as always. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And I hope you learned something. And oh my god. You know what? We're gonna try this whole thing again. We're gonna try this whole outro again, okay? As always, I've been Michael. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I still butchered it, but whatever.